Good evening, everybody. I hope that everybody can get settled here. First, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Dr. Robert Hunt from Southern Methodist University, and I'm a facilitator of these dialogue conversations each time they occur. And it happens because other people are gone that I'm not only facilitating, I'm actually having to sort of start things, which I'm not used to doing. So we'll make that pretty quick. First of all, there are some forms going around, and a kind of a registration form. We'd love to get your name and your email address, but also on the back side of the form, if you have don't give them back to us right away. If you have a question that you want to address to one of our three speakers this evening, write the question on the back of the form. And the way it works is, at some point after the three speakers have spoken, right after they've spoken, we'll collect all those forms, they'll be handed to me, and I'll sort through them and try to eliminate duplicate questions so that everybody gets a shot at a question, and then we'll do that. And we'll do as many as we can, right? Just so you understand the order of the evening and the way it works is each of our speakers will give a brief presentation on sacred spaces in their tradition. When those presentations are finished, the speakers will ask one another questions, and each one gets to ask another one a question. Then we'll have your questions and answers, Q&A, and then I'll sum up with some comments about what I see as the convergences and divergences in the three sessions, and then we'll close the evening out. There's refreshments, and it's a good time when we're finished to talk to each other and visit with the speakers and share your questions. So the speakers are going to come, well, first I'm going to make one announcement, and I'll make it, and then it will in a way be repeated. There's an organization called Unleash Generation. Two young women are here to represent it. Would you all raise your hands? Okay. And they're planning on March 1st a walk against Islamophobia as part of a program more generally to make people aware of Islam and what it actually teaches. There'll be a slide in the first presentation that will mention that briefly. The location is still to be announced, so if you're interested, you can approach them after the session. Are there other announcements? Hanan? Anybody? I think we're good. Future event. What? Yes, the future event, February 10th, at the Congregation Adat Shavarim on Independence Parkway in Plano. That's one of our the Jewish synagogues that's a partner with us. We will have, the topic is going to be proselytizing, conversion, and salvation outside of the faith for the three respective religions. And on that occasion, we'll have Imam Zia Sheikh from the Irving Mosque, Rabbi Hannah Schlesinger, and Reverend Douglas Skinner. Again, that's 7 p.m., okay? And I believe you'll be getting copies of this, so you'll have it. Oh, I should mention that the sponsors of these talks are our host congregation, as well as the Mimneson Institute, Mimneson Foundation and Institute, which, we have a representative here somewhere? No? Yeah, back there, okay. Thank you. The Jewish Studies Initiative of North Texas and Perkins School of Theology, where I come from. Okay, and then March 24th, oh yeah, blasphemy and freedom of speech. So we have a couple of interesting programs in February and March. We hope you'll note those. The first speaker we have is a longtime friend of mine now, Alif Rahman. He's from the Richardson Mosque, and he's going to come and speak on sacred spaces in Islam. Alif?
Thank you, Dr. Hunt, for your kind introduction. So my name is Alif Rahman, and by the way, how much time we have? 10 minutes? Is that correct? Yeah. 10, 15? Okay. So I'll try to go through my presentation as quickly as I can. Okay, so we Muslims like to start by saying, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Oops. Sorry, that's my phone. I have this app which you're gonna see that reminds us of prayer time. So that was an adhan for the 5th prayer time. So that was, anyway, so let me make sure I mute my phone. so that. Yes, so Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, the most gracious, most merciful. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That is the greeting of Muslims. So I greet you with our greetings. May peace, mercy, and blessing of God be with you. So as Dr. Hunt is pointing out, that's my name, and I am originally born in a small country called Bangladesh. So here we are in Texas. I love this pointer, by the way. In Dallas, Texas. So I was born and raised here, and then I moved here in Texas when I was 16, and then I've been here in the United States, not Texas, sorry, since then. Just want to show you a brief overview of where the Muslim populations are concentrated. As you can see, they're primarily here in Middle Eastern area. A little bit of breakdown of Muslims here in America. There are about, does anybody know what's the Muslim populations here in the United States? It's about 1.4, 1.6 million, I believe, roughly. So primarily South Central Asians, 33%, African Americans, Arabs, and then we have folks of other ethnic backgrounds. So I always like to start with this kind of, what is the goal of our interfaith dialogue? Why we come together to participate into this kind of event? So what is our perspective? From Muslims' perspective, it is always to dispel any misconceptions and misunderstanding that may exist in the name of a religion. In this day and age, there are a lot of misinformation about Islam out there. So I'm sure you guys have watched the news, and question came up your mind, right? So that's one of the primary things that we are trying to achieve from Islamic and Muslims' perspective. We also wanted to kind of establish the fact that Islam is really an American religion, in a sense where this is not a religion that can be found somewhere in Middle East, right? And Muslims are from another part of the world, and so in a sense, something like we don't belong here, things like that. So this is another thing that we want to establish is that if you ask us where we're from, we're American and then we're American Muslim. And there are a lot of converts as well. Like I have here in the audience my wife, Catherine. Catherine, you want to stand up? And my son, Noah. I have 4 sons, he's one of them. Noah, you want to stand up? Oh, okay. So Catherine is a convert. She's from Louisiana. So a lot of time when people say, "Why Muslims go home?" Then she might say, "Well, where? Monroe?" So because that's where she's from, right? So that kind of statement doesn't make too much sense. We want to establish the fact that the Muslims are law-abiding citizens and opposing extremism in our name of religion. Our involvement might vary. Not all of the Muslims are involved in this kind of interfaith dialogue. I mean, if you look around in the room, I'm a little bit ashamed to say, but we have about just a handful of Muslims here in this kind of a gathering. So it doesn't mean that we don't want to participate, but there are very level of engagement. There are different goals, I think, where that kind of shies them away from participating in. But in any case, this is our today's topic, sacred places and spaces. So the way I have understood, let me see here. Okay. It is really difficult to discuss about a topic without giving any sort of overview of the faith that it represents. So I'm sure that you guys are well adversed in Christianity and Judaism, but perhaps in Islam, and just maybe I'm veering off the topic just a little bit with that risk in mind. I know that we don't want to veer off the topic, but I feel that there has to be a little bit of introduction of the faith that we represent and what we believe in order for us to start talking about sacred places and spaces. So just want to start with this word Islam. What really means is submission to God's will. So it's individual by faith. What I mean by that is it in your heart. You believe is in your heart, right? So believe in the oneness of God and so on and so forth. The messengers, for example, it resides in one's heart. And it's communal by action. What that really means is that things that we do, for example, our prayer, which you're going to see, our 5 pillars, are really communal events. So the Muslims are any entity that perform their submission. What we believe is the whole universe is Muslim, from that specific definition. Humans are, we have free will. That's how we are different from the rest of the universe, and we're accountable for what we do. And then we believe in Day of Judgment, the last day, on how we use we'll be judged on how we use our free will. And this is another important point to make, is that we believe that Islam is not a religion that started with Prophet Muhammad, but the revelation ended with him. So we believe in all the prophets and messengers before him, and God sends messenger to every single community since the beginning of time. So the criteria of salvation is the same for all of the community, from beginning of time until now. This is a little bit of representation of the messengers or prophets in Islam. As you can see, the Prophet Muhammad came from this lineage of Ishmael, and our Jewish brothers perhaps reside over here. Dr. Hanan can speak on that a little bit more than I can. So we're really brothers in that sense, putting our differences aside. So these are the 24 prophets and messengers, or 23 of them rather, mentioned in the Quran. As you can see, most of them are also mentioned in the Bible, with the exception of a few. Wanted to touch a little bit about how we view Jesus in Islam. We believe that he's a mighty prophet of God. We must believe in him as a part of our faith, right? If we don't, then we will not be qualified to be a Muslim. But we believe that he is 100% human being, and he performed miracles. We do believe that he was born of Virgin Mary. And this is a little bit tough one to swallow, is that we don't believe that he was crucified, but he was raised up to heaven and he will come back. Okay, now with all that introduction, let's get into our sacred places and spaces topic for today. The way I have understood the sacred places is that in our religion, we can think about sacred places and spaces in 3 different dimensions: physical, spiritual, and heavenly. So for our presentation today, I'll be mostly talking about the physical sacred places and spaces. Spiritual, that something resides in our heart. Heavenly, there are things that we have to believe in, but obviously without seeing. And I have no pictures or slides for you to showing that either. Now, the physical sacred places are associated with ritual worship, our 5 times daily prayers. So one of this physical sacred place is really the mosque. How many of you have been to a mosque before? Oh, wow, you guys are veteran crowds here. So you'll be familiar with what I'll be showing you, the presentation and the different topic spaces. So it's the mosque associated with our 5 daily prayers. That's where our 5 prayers takes place. So that would be the most sacred place physically that we'll have. The most sacred places of all the mosques is Kaaba. I think you guys know what Kaaba is, right? This is that cube-shaped, box-looking house, if you will, in Saudi Arabia, in the city of Mecca. So that's where Hajj takes place. Kaaba is also a direction of prayer. So Muslims all over the world, when we pray, our ritual prayer will face toward Kaaba in Mecca. Does anybody know what direction is this Kaaba from here? in Dallas? Sort of like northeast, right? It's the shortest distance between where we are and Kaaba is. Now, this is another interesting thing. Before Muslims were praying toward Kaaba, we were actually praying to Masjid al-Aqsa, which I'll show you. This is in Jerusalem, also known as the farthest mosque. So this would be the second most sacred or holiest site. And then all other mosques that may exist could be thought of as the third most sacred holiest site after that. Your home is also a sacred place because we also pray at our home. A lot of time what we do is we will designate an area of the house where we put a prayer rug. So that place would be sacred place because that's where prayer is taking place, right? So again, we're going to be also today focusing on the physical sacred places and its spaces. So, as I was telling you earlier, the sacred places and spaces associate with the pillars or action in Islam. So here's what I mean. Shahada, this is one of the fundamental pillars in our religion, meaning the witnessing of the faith. This is where one witnesses the fact that there is no one worthy of worshiping except Allah, God Himself, and the Prophet Muhammad is His last messenger and servant. With that statement, what is really happening is that is first and foremost happening in our heart. So our heart could be considered as a sacred place to hold that belief, if you will. Ritual prayer, this is where I'm talking about the 5 times daily prayer that is taking place at mosque. Alms, this is zakah or giving charity. Then we have fasting during the month of Ramadan, and then Hajj. Hajj also takes place in Mecca, and I'll show you a map where different activities take place. So all of that could be considered as a sacred place and space associated with the Hajj. So these are the different prayer times we have. Early morning prayer at 6:30, then the afternoon 1:45, 4 p.m., 5:50, and about 8:30 evening prayer. All this prayer time associated with the movement of the sun. So they will change throughout the year. So we are encouraged to pray in congregation at the mosque for each one of these congregational prayer. But if we're working and if we're not able to go to the mosque, then we can pray at our home or wherever we are. So the purpose of prayer is to first and foremost to remember God and show our humility toward Him, right? And really how grateful we are for everything that everything He bestows on us, all His blessings, if you will. It prevents us from shameful deeds, right? And the sacred place associated with that is mosque. Okay. Now, Ramadan, I didn't mean to get into this, somehow this slide, get into this presentation. Basically, let me just skip this one. Well, I'll just talk about it a little bit. Ramadan that happens in the ninth, Ramadan is the 9th month of Arabic lunar calendar. This is the month where Muslims will fast from sunrise to sunset. So what is a sacred place and space associated with that? Primarily the mosque. And maybe your home, where you're breaking the fast at the end of the day. Now this one right here, have you guys heard this term Eid? In Islam, Muslims have 2 big festivals. One is this Eid al-Fitr that comes at the end of Ramadan. Another one is Eid al-Adha, which comes about 2.5 months roughly after Ramadan, which associate with Hajj. So during Eid al-Fitr, Muslims will go to a place called perhaps Idgah, which is a separate place from the mosque. It will be a big open area where Muslims will gather and pray 2 units of prayer. So that could be the sacred place that associate with the Eid activities. So here we go. This is now getting into the Hajj, a little map of the Hajj where activities that takes place. This is the city of Mecca where Kaaba is. And there are 4 major areas: Mina, Muzdalifah, Arafah. Hajj is really primarily, in a nutshell, visiting from here to here to here to here, and then come right back. Primarily, just a rough description. So with every place, there are activities that takes place. And for that time being, these become sacred places, space. Just a little history about, this is Mecca, and this is the Kaaba that I was referring to, is the evolution of it. So you can think about, this is beginning of time, at the time of Prophet Abraham, where Prophet Abraham, if you remember the slide, with his son Ishmael, comes and first builds this first house of worship that we believe, at Kaaba. So the first mosque was ever built, dedicated to worshiping God. So back then, it must have been probably looked like something like this. You can see that, excuse me, it is really conveniently located in trade routes with an intersection from 4 roads coming from 4 different directions. So no matter where are you coming from, north, south, east, west, you will have to cross through Mecca. So you'll have to stop, recharge, and so on and so forth. So people with different faith and belief will bring their gods or statues, if you will, and sort of will keep here so that they can continue the worshiping next year and so on and so forth. So soon, you're going to have, maybe we jump from here to here, about 360 or so idols, statues, will be in and around this vicinity. This is the time where Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, might have come in, and during his time, it might have looked like something like this. So one of his mission was to read, Kaaba from all the idols and rededicate it back to worshiping one God that all the prophets and messengers have worshipped before him. Fast forwarding, so the evolution of Kaaba continues, and this is how it looks like today. So this is another aerial picture of Kaaba, and this is the city of Mecca, right? So now, can you guys see right here, there's a little bit of a, looks like, let me see if I have a better, maybe not this one. You can see that there looks like a little wall here, right? Originally, when the Kaaba was built, it was not cube-shaped. It was rectangular in shape. So this area, it lies in a plain. Let me go back. It's sort of like a flood zone. So it would be flooded and reflooded, many times over the years. So what's going to happen? They would have to rebuild Kaaba several times. So in doing that, I think one of the last major rebuild that took place, they built it this way, at a cube-shaped house, but by still marking that the original Kaaba actually extended up to this point. This is another view of Kaaba. These are all human beings. These little dots that you see, right? So they are all sort of circling and worshiping, praying, facing toward Kaaba. And this is all this is just an empty house that it was the first mosque. There's nothing special in it. If you walk into the Kaaba, you'll see just empty and maybe a couple of Quran books here and there. That's about it. Right here, there are people who are circling the Kaaba. Right? This is one of the activities that takes place during the Hajj. In Arabic, this is called tawaf. This is another view, kind of maybe a close-up. You can see people, you can make out their shapes on this picture. In associating with Kaaba, this is another place we call Masjid al-Nabawi, or the Mosque of the Prophet. When the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, migrated from Mecca to Medina, first thing he did is he built a mosque. this is not the mosque that he built 2,000 years or so years ago. It was rebuilt and rebuilt, for example, but his mosque would have looked like very simple, and I don't have a picture of that, but this is what it looks like today, right? Is another view of the Prophet's mosque. And this is in the city called Medina, which is about 3 hours or so drive north of Mecca. Now, this is the, if you recall, that I was mentioning, one of the second most holiest site or sacred place in Islam would be the Al-Aqsa Mosque, or the farthest mosque. Let me show you, actually, this is a little bit better view. You all know what this is, right? Have you seen this before? Where's Dr. Hunt? So, you just came back from here a couple of weeks ago, right? So, it's still there. Okay, thank God. So this is what is called the, I guess it's the Temple Mount or the Dome of the Rock, and this is one of the most visible thing that you see when you see any picture of Jerusalem. So it resides over here. Then you have this western wall, which I guess our Dr. Hanan will talk about that some more, right? The excavation work, walkway, and right here, this is Al-Aqsa Mosque, the farthest mosque, where Muslims, when they were praying at the time of the Prophet, they were facing toward north, this mosque. And we also believe that the Prophet Muhammad, during his lifetime, peace be upon him, took a night journey, that he ascended through heaven, right? He met with several prophets and met with God himself and came down. We call it Isra al-Miraj. He ascended from here, right, through the heaven. Maybe another discussion on the topic. That's why this becomes one of the sacred places in Islam, and perhaps the second most sacred places. So now let me go back. This is another close-up view. This is the Dome of the Rock, and Al-Aqsa would be this one right here. How many of you have visited this place before? Wow, that's amazing. So have you seen the Al-Aqsa, this mosque? Sorry? No? Okay. So you've been to probably this vicinity of this one, but not this one. Okay. This is another view of Al-Aqsa Mosque. This is the inside, how it looks like. This really looks like a cave. How many of you know what this is? Let's say that's the trick question. This is the first mosque that was ever built here in the United States. Do you know where this is? It's in a place we would never guess.
West Virginia.
Close. It's in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Iowa. That's what I said, it's a place you'll never guess. And this is one of the earliest first generation of Muslim, right? Where, fortunately, I was able to get hold of this picture for you. How many of you know what this one is? Go ahead. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is the Blue Mosque in Istanbul, Turkey. Now, this is where let us talk about sacred spaces as well. There are two visible aspects of the mosque, right? If you see, one is this tall-looking structure, and this is called minaret. Another one is this dome-shaped structure. So these are two almost, indistinguishable feature of mosques. Now, this is not the way the mosques were originally built at the time of the Prophet, or even a couple hundred years after him. The mosque would look pretty flat. They would not have this kind of a dome. This is actually an Ottoman structure. You all know what Ottoman Empire is, history, and so on and so forth. So when the Ottomans are pushing in Eastern Europe, they will take a lot of the churches and convert it to mosques, and they really like the dome shape. So that's where this dome shape came to be. And Ottoman had great influences to all the other Islamic architecture. Became one of the prominent feature of mosque. There's these pictures of different kinds of mosques from all over the world. So I wanted to show you that all of them have this visual structure of minaret and the dome. Now, what is the sacred spaces? The way I understood it, the sacred space which can reside inside of a sacred place, such as a mosque. If you have visited a mosque, that you have noticed that this kind of a ditch in the front, right? This is where Imam will stand and lead the prayer, and this is the direction toward Kaaba. So anytime you go to the mosque, and this is where you're going to see, and right, so you know exactly which direction the Makkah, Kaaba is. So if you've been to a mosque, another thing you might have noticed that the mosques are elongated this way, versus the church, which is deeper this way, right? The reason being is that it is more rewarding to stand in the front row when you are doing a ritual prayer. So they are sort of built this way so a lot of people can stand in the front row, if you will. And this is where inside of that dome shape, what it may look like. This is called mimbar. This is where, just a couple of pictures of several different mosques. On Fridays, the imam, or our spiritual leader, will stand up and give a sermon, a speech. So this is where he would step. So this is the ditch that I was talking about, direction of prayer, and he would climb up and give the Friday sermon. It's called the mimbar. Another example of what a mosque interior might look like. So here you can see that this is another example of mosque where people are sort of sitting around and talking and having what we call a halakha. They are sitting in a circle, maybe having a discussion, reading the Quran beyond these 5 daily prayers. Another example of interior of the mosque. Okay, this is sort of, I'm reaching toward the end of the slide and presentation, so I'm going to conclude toward the end with some of those thoughts of how we relate with each other, Muslims and the people of the book. People of the book refers to, in Islam, Christian and Jews, because all three faiths received revelation from God, and these are scriptural revelation, meaning it's based on scripture that is being revealed. We have a lot of things in common. We share a lot of same beliefs, values, and principles. There could be some fundamental differences of how we view Jesus and how we view salvation, how we define sin, for example, and how we achieve salvation. Putting aside these doctrinal differences, we share same morals and values, right? We are all of us are against abortion, for example, other social vices such as alcohol, gambling, etc. And we are all for human dignity, mutual respect, helping the poor, improving the environment. So as we share the same space we call North America and Earth, perhaps, putting our theological differences aside, we can accomplish great things and we can make our life better, right? Which is the hardest, easy thing to say, but probably the hardest thing to do. And that is the goal for interfaith dialogues for us, for Muslims, is that when we leave, that we want to leave this kind of impression of common grounds so that we can build upon it from that point on. So I guess Dr. Hunt has already mentioned this Walk Against Islamophobia event where we have two sisters here that if you want to talk to them about this more, you can. And then later on, we're going to get into Q&A. And I think that's it for me. I've taken up a lot of time. I apologize for that. Wow, 30 minutes.
Thanks, Ali.